Good morning all. So today we're going to be talking about curtain measuring. Yes, one of my favourite topics. Actually, I don't mind a bit of curtain measuring myself. I normally leave it to my lady Anita, who we'll meet later on. Anita has been doing my curtains for a long time now, and it's actually quite important for you to actually find, when you find your different workmen and you find your different suppliers, to actually find a very, very good curtain and soft furnishing maker. And Anita has been with me for years. She's been doing it for sort of like something like 40 years. So she's very proficient at curtains and blinds, and I normally get her in to actually measure. So she has got the direct dimensions. You can measure yourself, and this isn't necessarily a problem to do. But what I would say is it's much better to get somebody else, the person who's actually making the curtains, so they can see where the pitfalls are, and you can have a discussion on site and really work through what you're intending to put up. We're going to be dealing with the Chelsea house today, and what has happened there. Anita's actually already been in, so she's actually already been in, done her measurements, given me a quotation, and that I've had for quite some time now whilst the rest of the work went on at the house. And now it's time to actually do the curtains. The client is pretty much ready. She's chosen mostly all the fabrics, not all of them yet. She's still looking through. She didn't realise there was quite such a breadth of fabrics, so she's still got a few more to do. But Anita's going to come in and remeasure. Why? Well, for two reasons. First of all, sometimes things change a little bit. We have actually had some work done around the windows. That's item one. But item two, most importantly, the windows have been changed. Now, they've almost been done like for like, certainly style-wise, but more importantly than that, they've actually had something else put on them. They're a very different type of a window that my particular client wanted, and these actually have inbuilt blackout blinds actually within the pane of glass. They're actually, you have the window, you have the blinds, the blackout blinds, you have the secondary glazing, which is cutting out all the noise, and we've got shutters over the top, which means that if you've got the window here, you've actually got quite a depth, and the curtains, whereas they would have started here and fallen down next to the window, they're now going to have to fall over some shutters, which is not ideal. I've already briefed Anita about this, so she's going to come in and she's going to remeasure. The good news is, as I've spoken to the client already, we might well be doing dress curtains. Now, dress curtains are something quite different. Dress curtains are effectively just there for dress. They sit at the ends of windows, and they just sit there. They don't close. You don't have a curtain pole going all the way along the stretch of the window. You can just have a little curtain pole at one at the other, and the curtains hang down. They effectively dress the window panes, but it means they don't shut. They'll still be lined, they'll still be interlined, you can still have whatever fabric and heading you want. There's no change there, but it just means that they won't close. Why do we need this? In this particular case, we're dealing with the master bedroom, and the master bedroom basically has all these glazing, secondary glazing, the blinds and the shutters. It's just for one room, and it means that if you want to have curtains over the top, you'd have to have a great big curtain pole. It would have to be projected out from the wall in order for the curtains to hang straight down and not dip over, which we don't want to do. So Anita's going to come back and measure those. I've already told her that we're going to do dress curtains there. She's happy, everybody's happy. And I think that we're probably going to do the same for the curtain which are going in the room above. Now this is actually at the top of the house. The ceiling's a little bit off, and this is something that you need to watch out, because when you're looking at a window, just a straightforward window, you have to look at it in relation to the ceiling, because if you're putting a pair of curtains in, you have to be aware that sometimes ceilings aren't always straight, they're a little bit off. This is especially true if you're doing blinds. Blinds are another ball game altogether. The problem with the blinds is if you think that you're doing a square, if the frame is off, your blind is going to be off as well, and that's not good. So you have to really look at these things. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Anita's coming in, she's going to remeasure. The blinds are going to be, I think, quite straightforward. They're probably going to be Linara, which is, it won't be this colour, but Linara Romo is a very, very strong fabric. It's quite inexpensive, but it's very good for both drapes, for curtains, and also good for upholstery. I've spoken about it before. It's well worth, and it comes in about 400 different colours. Really good stuff, and everybody uses it, so that's quite good. So we're going to be doing the curtains, and we're also going to be doing drainage. Now, the reason why we're doing drainage is that at the back garden we have some rainfall recently in London, and it's actually caused a puddle outside, I call it a swimming pool, outside in the back garden, and the reason being is because the drains are blocked. This often happens with tenanted properties because the landlords don't really necessarily care, so they're not noticing anything and they're not doing any maintenance on the house. And the tenants who are living there, it's not their property, so they don't care either. Consequently, things build up, and rain gets in, everything gets blocked, and then your house is in danger of being damaged through water damage. So we're going to eradicate that. So today we're doing curtains and drains. How exciting! So here we are at the house, and the drainage man is on his way, so we'll deal with him in a moment. But first I think we should have a quick look at what we are measuring for today for the curtains. This is for when Anita arrives a little bit later on. So here in the living room, this is the first window to measure, and we have the cornice right at the top there. That's up there, and then along here, all the way along here, this is where the curtain pole will be going. So it means the curtains would be no really wider than this, apart from the finials at the end. The curtains would be following all the way down here, covering over these shutters here, which are a lovely addition to the room, and they're original. Now at the bottom there you can see a light, and that's the light there. So that is an uplight which would be shining onto the curtains. There's one on the other side, which is just over here. And this needs to be remembered when you're hanging curtains. Of course, on the other side, along here, again, this is where you would have your curtains. This is at the back here. Now, the issue that we have here, of course, is we have a sofa in the way. So the sofa would need to be moved out from a little bit. We'd have to move that right out in order to accommodate the curtains. And, of course, there are more lights over here as well, just right there. So let's go downstairs and see what else there is to measure up, because I think there's quite a few bits and bobs. You may remember this house, the Chelsea house, from all the other videos. It's all still looking good, which is great. Now this is the dining room. So we have quite a straightforward just basically a wall here that we can actually put up the curtains there. There is a general rule of where to put curtains. It's personal preference. You need to be able to clear the frame of either the window or the door, but obviously the most important thing is to actually allow the light in, so you can't be too careful about actually putting something which is quite close. Some people say that you should put something around about sort of the 15 to 20 centimetres mark. I sometimes like to be a little bit more careful on that and actually bring it out a little bit further. What I do have to worry about in this particular case is the light switch, which is here. So that, I would say, that's a really good guide. You don't want to obscure the light switch, but you do want to have the curtains pulled back so they sit on this wall here rather than sit in front of the window and block the light coming in. One thing to watch when Anita turns up today. So this is one of the children's bedrooms, and you can see here the blackout blind, which has already been fitted separately by the clients, and so the blinds are actually going to fall down, and they're actually going to be sitting, as you can imagine, they'll come right down here and they'll rest pretty much just around about that level where the actual windowsill is. Now, of course, they're going to have to come out. The reason why they're going to have to come out this far, or something very much like it, is in order to block out as much light as possible, and you're going to have to need them at that level or somewhere around that line in order to block out the light which is going to come from the outside part. So this is the other children's bedroom. You can see here the blind, the actual blackout blind, which is going to be fitted onto this window.
That's that there. Now you can see it's actually not quite, it's quite slim, but that nevertheless, the blind is going to have to go and fall all the way down on this window straight. Let's go and see what's happening in the main bedroom. So here are the master bedroom new windows and secondary glazing, blinds and shutters.
Now what you see behind me are the new shutters that have gone on the master bedroom window. So they're all looking great, and they're a rather interesting concoction. I have seen these around a fair amount, but not everybody asks for them. So these shutters are great. Now they obviously open and shut here. There's no mechanism, you just basically shut them when you want to. But obviously with these type of shutters, these obviously louvre panels here, it does let in light. So the issue is remedied by a very good idea. They actually have, once you open these up, they actually have blinds in them. See those right at the top. And those come down and they provide the blackout which is necessary for good sleeping.
Now, of course, when you're fitting blinds or curtains in this particular case, we have to look at exactly where you're going to put them, and we're actually going to put these along the top of the frame, and they're obviously going to be hanging down past these louvre shutter panels, and they'll be literally going right down to the floor. So we've really got to appraise this really quite carefully.
So if we're putting dressed curtains in this particular room, let's have a look at where they're going to go.
So with Anita and John here, we're going to be putting the poles just along here, which means that the curtains will just fall just this bit over the shutters. So we need to make sure that the bracket is going to be wide enough, because once you put something in that corner against that wall, it means it needs to have a depth of around about sort of 4 inches in order to cover, as you can see here, the depth of these shutters when they're open. So that's something that we've got to watch. So we'll get to work. Anita and John will measure up in the corners for the entire length, and we'll have the measurements that we need. Of course, looking at the other windows, some windows won't need to be done at all. So these arch windows, as you can see here, you could put a blind at the top there, but there's probably no point at all, and the client likes to have the light in. So this one on the second floor and the last one on the first floor we will leave, and just let the light come shining through without any blinds or window dressings whatsoever. So in short, for measuring windows, this is what you need to do. You need to have a measuring tape, which is preferably going to be metal because they're sturdier, and a pencil and paper. Remember to take your time. Mistakes can be costly, and you'll be the one that will be paying if you get it wrong. Remember to take plenty of photographs. You will need to take photographs because you won't remember all the different windows that you will be measuring. Measure the width of the window first of all, and then add 20 centimetres each side. The reason for this is that you're going to be stacking those curtains on those 20 centimetres on each side of the window. That length will give you the length of your pole that you'll need to order. Finials, of course, the ones, the little bits on the end of poles, those are going to be extra. So if you are putting a pole near a corner, make sure that the finials that you have chosen will fit. If you are using a track instead of a pole, allow for an overlap of about 3 centimetres. Of course, when measuring for a drop, you need to measure 3 different points along the pole, as sills and floors are rarely level. Use the shortest measurement so that the curtains do not drag on the floor. Curtains should be about 1.5 centimetres above the floor, 15 centimetres below a sill, and around about 1.25 centimetres above a sill. And that's all you need to know for the moment. Naturally, there's plenty of other information online, but of course, the best idea is to get a professional curtain maker to do the measuring for you. So this is the space outside of the house, and this was about 8 inches in depth of rainwater yesterday, so it's finally gone down. Let's see what Chris, with his plunger, let's see what magic he can work and if he can unblock this drain. So after a bit of a plunge, we're just testing the drain at the moment. I wonder whether there's a lot of stuff down there to actually clear out.
Not a lot, to be honest with you. There's no. I mean, if there was a blockage there, you'd feel like a. I don't know how to explain, like a vacuum.
Sorry, you must think I'm nuts. Have a go. Ooh, so it's quite.
It's quite shallow, really.
Yeah, it is shallow.
Yeah.
It's completely shallow.
Yeah, they're designed to hold water. Just like if you get rats in your in your line as such, they're designed to hold water because the rats won't come up through the water, so they won't be able to get out of the sewer as such, unless they come up through your toilet, of course.
Well, that's a cheery thought. Rats coming up the lavatory. So we'll clear that mess away, and we now have a working drain. So that's another couple of jobs done at the Chelsea house. Client is all happy. Now that we have sorted out the entirety of the drain problem. Just a little bit of silt. Silt is something which happens quite a lot in London town. Comes off the roof, it's in different places, and once it actually falls down onto the ground, it can collect in drains. Once it collects in drains, it then forms a hard body, and it just needs to be plunged. Nothing too drastic. We're about 90 pounds lighter for that, but I could probably do that myself. So next time, I think I might. But it's well worth getting a professional in if you don't know what you're doing. In this case, Chris, the lovely engineer, also had a look at our manhole. The manhole is actually in the kitchen, it's on the floor, and that all looks good. It's not blocked, nothing wrong with it at the moment, which is all great, but it means that the entire waste of the house is running down the house and through that manhole. So if anything gets blocked outside, we'll know to go into that manhole and to clear it out. Very exciting. I'm now off home to get some more paperwork done and some more practice on my new software, ready for the Sloane Square job. I've had a couple of calls in this afternoon from a couple of the people that I'm getting on board to do some work for the Sloane Square job. So they're next to call and to make an appointment with them to meet up with the client. Full steam ahead.